Good morning and welcome back to the Crumble Cottage Kitchen. My name is Alison Graham and I am Crumble's Mistress of the Bake. A couple of months ago we baked our mature fruit cake, our Christmas cake, and that has been sitting resting for 2 months, occasionally being basted with brandy, and it's now ready to decorate. Yesterday I warmed up some apricot jam, glazed it and put the marzipan on it to set, and it's now sitting on the board and we're going to start working with our sugar paste. What I want to do first is talk to you about the range of equipment I've got on my bench. So because I'm working on a wooden bench, I've got a little mat to roll my sugar paste out on, because sugar paste doesn't like rolling out on wood. I've got a marvellous PVA sugar paste rolling pin. I tried first of all using a wooden pin. It doesn't work, it sticks back on the pin and leaves texture in the sugar paste, and this needs to be smooth. I've got a mountain of white sugar paste. I've got way more than I need, but I always use white sugar paste, and it's very difficult to give an accurate gauge of how much sugar paste you need to cover a cake. So I always buy more. If you wrap it tightly, it will keep for a while and you can use it again. I've got some green sugar paste in 2 shades and some red, and I'm going to be making some holly decorations in the shape of a wreath to go on top of our finished white cake. And then I've got various other bits and pieces that I'll talk to you about when I come to use them. Some cake smoothers, a palette knife, a bit of edible glue, some edible glitter and some ribbon to trim the cake. And here's a few of my holly leaves which I've prepared earlier. They will be finished off with a bit of lustre powder to bring them to life, and they will be the start of the Christmas wreath on the top of the cake. And just to note before we begin, lots of people choose to roll sugar paste out with icing sugar. It's absolutely fine, you can totally do that. But I prefer to use corn flour because it's silkier and it doesn't get sticky, and the sugar paste doesn't absorb it in the same way that it absorbs icing sugar. So we'll make a start and you can watch me work. And now we're going to put the sugar paste on the cake. Okay, this is not complicated. We're not making the royal wedding cake for next year. We're doing a family Christmas cake. This is going to be the centerpiece of an adult party, and we would just want it to look lovely and delicious and inviting. So I have here 1.5 kilos of sugar paste. I use Renshaw, which I find really good. You can get it widely available in places like Hobbycraft and things like that, or you can order it online. You need to knead it before you work it. I have given it a bit of a knead, but it's not difficult to do. It's quite stiff, but you just knead it like you would knead bread, really. And push it down, okay? And then when you've got it to a reasonable sort of pliable consistency, you can start to roll it out. Now, 1.5 kilos is going to be more than enough to cover this cake. I will be cutting quite a bit off, but it's so difficult, as I said, to gauge exactly how much you need, so it's best to err on the side of caution. You don't want to put it on top of your cake and you've got flappy bits and gaps. That's not going to work. So what I'm going to do now is use a bit of corn flour on my board just to help the sugar paste roll out. So this is just a little sifter and some basic corn flour, and I'm just going to sift it on, because what you want to be able to do is move your sugar paste as you're rolling it. So just stand that there and put that in the middle. I'm just going to shove the cake down a little bit, and then we will begin to roll. So these are about £16. If you're going to work with sugar paste, they're a really good investment. I wouldn't be without mine. So it's like, again, rolling pastry really. And it takes a little while because the sugar paste is thick. Get that little crumb off there. Don't want that, whatever that is. And then what I do is just move the paste around on the board and roll again. My mat's rolling slightly on this table, but that's not a problem. And what you're looking for in your finished sugar paste is about the thickness of a £1 coin. If you go too thin, you're going to have problems. When you lift it to put it on the cake, it will stretch and you'll get what's called elephant leg, or it will tear. And then when you patch it, you're going to have messy bits. So you need a decent amount. And here we go. We've got the sugar paste rolled out to about the thickness of a £1 coin, as I said. And what I'm going to do now is just check roughly with my rolling pin that I actually rolled out enough to cover it. It's really simple. Get your rolling pin, stand it on your cake board and make a note with your finger where it stops at the top of the cake. Lie it on top and estimate about the same on the other side. Okay, so you know that this is what you need to cover. And then I just put it on my sugar paste and turn it round and make sure I've got enough. I'm just going to go out there a tiny bit more, down there a tiny bit more, and that should be absolutely fine. And what I'm going to do is put a little bit of edible glue on the marzipan. The marzipan's been drying for 24 hours. The sugar paste has moisture in it, so as it dries it will stick to the marzipan, but I just want to be sure that nothing's going to happen. So again, this is literally edible glue. You could use a bit of royal icing if you wanted to, or a bit of buttercream, though you don't really want buttercream on a Christmas cake. So just using a clean paintbrush, literally just dot a bit on here and there. And I'll just put a little bit around the corners as well. Right, okay, we're going to lift the sugar paste. Now this is the bit that people always panic about, but honestly it's fine, particularly with this big rolling pin. So what we're going to do, start at the front, and we're going to lift the sugar paste over the rolling pin. If you've got it the right thickness, it's not going to crack. You pick it up on your rolling pin and you begin at the back. Okay, and then you're rolling it over the cake towards you, like that, okay? And then what you need to do is just smooth it down. So, I have got a tiny gap at the bottom there, but I'm not going to worry because I am going to put a ribbon around the cake, so we'll be fine. So first of all I go around with my hands and I just push it gently into place. And you just ease it round the corners, okay? Just like that, just easing the corners, okay? Corners are the trickiest bits, but if you take your time, it's not a problem, okay? So there's our cake covered in sugar paste. So what I'm going to do first is take a reasonably sharp knife and just trim off the extra. Don't go too close because you don't want to end up with a gap at the bottom of your cake. So just leaving a few millimetres extra, just take off some of the sugar paste that you're not going to need, okay? And that bit there will be the back. And there, and just around the front. There. Now this sugar paste won't keep for months and months and months now it's opened, but it will keep. So you can always wrap it tightly. I tend to double wrap it in cling film and then wrap it in foil and keep it in a cool place, and you will be able to use it again. But you need to do that reasonably quickly, otherwise it will just dry out. I'm probably not going to worry about that for today's purposes. So there we go, the cake is now covered in sugar paste. So I'm going to take a little bit more off this corner where I've got a bit too much, and then I'm going to use these marvellous things called cake smoothers. Again, a couple of pounds each. You don't have to have one, but they just help you flatten the sugar paste out over the top of your cake. And then when you're going down the sides, they're amazing because they just push it all into place. And I also use my knife and just push any little bits in like that. Probably got a bit extra there, so we'll just trim again and push. And I'm going to do this around the whole of the cake, okay? And I will show you when it's finished. Okay. So I have got two cake smoothers. They don't match, but it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to show you what you can do just to finish off the cake. So I've got a slight dimple there in the top, but just by you pushing the cake smoother over it, without using your hands, you get a nice silken finish. A little bit, just keep working. There we go, that's that dimple eradicated. And then if you want, and though this works better with a straight Madeira cake or something like that that's got really crisp sides, you can hold one cake smoother there and the other there and push them together, and you will start to crisp up the edges on your cake. Now this isn't a perfectly square cake because it's a fruit cake, so there's a bit of a rise on the top, and ordinarily with a Madeira I would trim it, but I'm not trimming the fruit cake because I mean you're cutting off all that lovely brandy crust that you've been putting on in the last 2 months. So we're just going to make it look nice. And I think for our purposes that is good. So we will stop there and we will move on to our holly leaves and our wreath, and I'll show you what I'm going to do next. Hello, we are back with our sugar paste, and what we're going to do now is create our holly wreath, which is going to go on the top of the cake and add a really vibrant splash of Christmas colour to a plain white cake. So I have got 2 shades of green sugar paste, exactly the same as the white one I used before, and I've rolled out the green one, the light green one, and I've actually used a smaller rolling pin for this because it's easier when you're working with a smaller quantity of sugar paste, and you want to roll it out fairly thin. This doesn't need to be the thickness of a pound coin because you're making decorations for the top and you don't want them to look too chunky. I will just show you here, I've cut some out earlier in a darker green, so if I pick up a big leaf you can see the sort of thickness that we're aiming for, so really only a few millimetres. Okay, and what I'm going to do with these as well, show you how they work, how you cut them out, and then I'm going to show you the edible lustre powder, which adds a bit of depth to the finished product. So I have got 3 PME holly leaf cutters, okay? They came in a little set of 3. They are 3 different sizes, and they're super easy to use, and they're only a few pounds each. I think I probably bought these on eBay. So when you've rolled out your sugar paste, nice and thin, quite simply put the cutter down on top, press the plunger, which will do the veining for you, and lift. If it's stuck slightly to your mat, don't worry, it will just lift up. And then what I've got here is a tray with some baking paper so things can dry out slightly and not stick. And do the same again. And I'm going to be doing a selection of different size leaves. Okay, so I will carry on with that shortly, but what I want to do first is talk to you about the lustre powder and the glitters that I'm going to use. So I will be making some holly berries as well, and they're going to have a bit of a red shimmer, and my leaves are going to have a bit of a green shimmer, which, as I say, just adds some depth. Now you get 2 products, 2 main products on the market. This one is called Rainbow Dust, which is a hologram red colour I've got today, and it's great because it's super glittery, really pretty. It is safe for contact with food, but it is not actually edible. So you really only can use it on decorations that will be taken off a cake and not consumed. And you need to be really aware of that because, you know, it's the sort of thing people put on cupcakes for children. It's not actually designed for consumption. 100% edible glitter is called edible glitter. It doesn't have quite the same lustre, not quite the same sparkle, but that's the difference between the products. I'm going to use the red on my berries, as I say. This is for an adult cake. If adults choose to eat glittery red berries, that's their lookout. But I wouldn't be doing this for children. So I'm going to just show you how it works on one of my holly leaves, and then we will carry on. So it comes in a little pot. You need your cloth or a bit of baking powder. Not baking powder, baking parchment even. And a clean, dry paintbrush. So you dip it in, pat off the excess, and then you just work a little bit around the edge of your sugar paste. Now those might be a little bit dry, might not stick so well, but if I try one of the ones I've just done, there we go, we're just getting a bit of an extra green catching in the imprints, and it just adds a little extra sparkle and shimmer. Okay, so I'm going to carry on with that, do some more leaves, do some shimmering, and then I'll come back to you when I'm ready to put it all on top of the cake. Right, the next stage of our cake is to put the leaves on the top and create a holly wreath. So I've got leaves cut out in 2 shades of green with a bit of glittery lustre dust on them, just as I say, to add a little bit extra. I might not have done enough, but I can always roll out more because I've got spare sugar paste. And what I've got here is a 6-inch circular tin, and I'm going to use that as a guide on my cake to create the wreath. So I'm going to put it in the middle, as close in the middle as I can. I think that's about right. And I'm just going to do a gentle press. And there, I've got a dent in my sugar paste. So now I've got something to work on when I start my wreath. So I'm going to use edible glue to secure everything in place. You can use royal icing, but I'm using edible glue today. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go round, just start on the top and just go round. And this is brilliant stuff. Honestly, it dries rock solid. It's about £3 a jar. It lasts for ages and you'll get a really, really good finish. And then we can begin. So I think I'm going to start my wreath at the top and bring it round. And I'll finish it off at the bottom. So I'm going to start first of all with my dark green. And then you just press it gently onto the sugar paste. And you can use any sort of combination of size, colour, whatever you want. I love the fact it's 2 greens because holly leaves aren't all the same colour and it makes a wonderful contrast. And this is where you can just sort of really get as creative or as non-creative as you want. Stick them in. And I've got some really tiny baby ones, which can just go around the outside a bit like that. And you can see they're creating the effect of the wreath. So, as you can see, we've got our completed wreath. And what I'm doing now is doing a few little holly berries in the non-edible holographic glitter, just to add a bit of depth to the finished wreath and a bit of extra colour. So I've got a tiny little piece of red sugar paste, and you don't need to really knead it when it's this small. You just roll it in the palm of your hand to make a ball. And what you do is you put your brush in your holographic glitter and just dot it on, because there's moisture in the sugar paste and this glitter really sticks. To ensure my berries don't fall off my wreath, I am using a bit of edible glue just to anchor them in. So here we are, we're just going to put the final berry on. And as you can see, I've done them quite randomly because I just want this to be a sort of fun splash of colour, and holly berries aren't even on holly trees anyway. So there we go, berries are on. The wreath is finished. And now what I'm going to do is put some ribbon around it, and then your Christmas cake is ready for your party. And now we're going to do the final finishing touch, which just perfects the cake. We've got some Christmas ribbon, which is going to be tied around the base of it. It will just hide any little edges on your sugar paste. I've already cut it to size, and I'm just going to bring it round to the front, knot it off, and put a bow in it. This is quite tricky to do with one pair of hands, but I am adept. I have put many ribbons around many cakes. Here we go. Knot. We tie it in a bow. And there we have our finished cake. If you need to adjust any little bits of sugar paste, you can just trim them off or push them under your ribbon. And I will be doing that in just 1 second. But right now, I'm going to turn the cake round and I'm going to show it to you. And there you go, your Crumble Cottage Christmas cake ready for a party.